In fact, and then what I did is I asked my U.S. Contingent senators and representatives up in Congress. I told them what was happening to write a letter on my behalf. And this is from Elizabeth Warren, senator from Massachusetts, addressed to Thomas Felix Rosenbaum, October 3rd, 2018. And it says, Edward Blumdahl has reached out to our office with concerns regarding 6 scientific articles that were given out without his consent. And I'll sort of show it. I don't know if you can look at it. Well, there it is. Right? Like I said, I have I have letters and all kinds of evidence to back this up. So anyway, that's the, and Richard Price is a graduate of Caltech, right? So then we go on to Larry Bacow, and I've been talking to Harvard when Drew Faust was there, right? And I said to Harvard, actually I started connecting with, I think, the Board of Overseers, which is like the Board of Trustees, and one of the professors there who was the chair at the time, and that was Professor Moriai. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's into particle physics. And I sent him my paper. It was a conceptual piece, like all my papers are to start with anyway. It was a conceptual piece, and I just said, I called him up by phone, and I said, I sent this to you, and he got it. And then I said, well, I think, Mr. Einstein, there's problems with Mr. Einstein's theories. And he said to me, well, it's been over 100 years since it's happened, and there's some other off I don't remember. And then I said to him, yeah, but just because a theory is 100 years old doesn't mean it has to be correct. And then there's kind of a silence, and I sort of prodded him, but nothing really happened, and that was pretty much the end of the conversation. So, I think one item that you get in science is that you don't get in, politics, religion, or cults, is that no one's science is beyond reach. Once you put a man or a woman or anybody on a pedestal, that they're up there and beyond reach, that's when science fails. So my premise that I work with is that nobody's science is beyond reach, including Mr. Einstein's. Science. It's not a personal attack on Mr. Einstein. It's science. I promote science. So Larry Bacow, never really got back to me like any of the others, but I guess I was pushing the envelope a little bit because I wanted to get heard. And this is a letter from Harvard University Police Department, and addressed to Edward Blumdahl, and it's written by a Christopher Riccardi, who's on the Harvard University Police Department. So I'll show you this. There's the Harvard emblem. And actually they came to my door, 2 people from Harvard and 2 from the local police department, and I think all of them had weapons on them. So it didn't bother me too much, but I thought it was a little bit of overreaching. And they just said, don't bother him, don't do anything, okay. So, I'm looking at, that's fine. And I told Larry that, this is going to come back to bite him in the butt, and it did, because, we don't want science too much, right? A little science, yeah, but don't send us too much science. We don't want to talk about it. So here you go. You spend, parents spend $80,000 a year to send their child to Harvard, and at the end of 4 years, they're 4 years behind everybody else. Not a real good selling point for Harvard University. But anyway, they chose not to, so that's fine. Mr. Zimmer, Robert Zimmer of the University of Chicago, he doesn't know much. I sort of brought him in for two reasons. One, he's the president of the university and should be aware of what's going on. All presidents should be aware of what's going on. There's a real problem in science. It's a real mess. There's a real problem. And anyway, I brought him in, but I did talk to Katie Callow-Wright on several occasions, write to her anyway, emails. She never got back to me, never said anything. And you know, I thought Mr. Zimmer would be interested, but nothing ever happened. And then I thought I had an in because the chairman of my dissertation committee graduated from the University of Chicago. But nothing ever happened to that. Going on to, so that's Larry Bacow, Robert Zimmer at University of Chicago, Phil Hanlon at Dartmouth University. I'm sorry, Dartmouth College. Dartmouth College. And I talked to the chair of the physics department, never said anything. Then I talked to you know, the head administrator, the president of the college, Phil Dunlap, and I did a few letters to him and sort of told him what was going on. And of course, they didn't want anything to do with it. And Phil's a mathematician, and he's also a graduate of, you guessed it, Caltech. And so they didn't do anything about it. And what was I going to say? Oh yeah. Well, I tried to express what was happening and how I was being blocked out, hoping that they'd be interested in science and want to find out what I was up to. But of course, no one ever did. I pushed the envelope a little bit with Dartmouth College. I mean, I'm not a threat to anybody. I mean, I'm just not. And they sent back a letter of trespass. So I can show you that. So is this? So Mr. Montas, actually I think he's a pretty nice guy, and so we agreed that I wouldn't contact him and leave it at that. But nobody, Phil didn't want anything to do with it. Never wrote back. I wrote to a lot of people up there. One thing that I did note. Oh, I should say, like with Harvard, their motto is what? Veritas, right? Basically, truth or truthful. There's not much veritas, as far as I'm concerned, at Harvard these days. There's a lot of, I don't know what the word would be for mess, or blinding yourself purposely, so you don't have to look at things. But there's not a whole lot of veritas going on. So I think they might want to think about that and get the veritas back in Harvard University. But the motto of Dartmouth, if you don't know it, it's Vox Clementes in Deserto. And it basically means a voice crying out in the wilderness. And that's what I thought I was. I mean, I'm up here, I'm doing science, I'm sending it out, I'm being rejected, wall of silence, nothing happens, just, blocked every which way I go. And I thought that Dartmouth, because of that, would recognize a voice crying out in the wilderness, but no. They did what others did. What others did, yes, they cover their eyes, see no science, block their ears, hear no science, and then block their mouth, speak no science. So that's what Phil did. Phil and Leo should get together. I'm sure they'd have a good time. The other next case, that's Phil Hanlon, Peter Solovay, president of Yale. Again, you can see the phone numbers up there. He doesn't know a lot about it, but again, at an Ivy League school, he should be aware of it, what's going on in science. He's just a psychologist, and that's fine. But as president, you can't just be a psychologist. You have to have a lot of different drawers that you need to open for the whole university. So he needs to be aware of this. And it's sort of an interesting story that when I had my first paper published, Breaking the Light Barrier, it was for a conference that was being held in St. Petersburg, Russia. And they accepted my paper, but I didn't really have any money, so I was looking for funding, and I called up some of the schools, and one I did was Yale. So I told Yale what was going on. My paper's been accepted, and I think I was talking to the chair of the physics department at that point. Have no idea who it is, at what I remember, and all I got was a no. So that sort of ended my interaction with Yale. Hold on one second. Okay. So Peter Solovey, like I said, I mean, I've made these people aware. If you call them, they'll know what's going on. They need to get together and straighten out science, like I said, because right now it's a large mess. Ronald Daniels, he's a lawyer, and he's the president of Johns Hopkins University. And one of the reasons I talked to him, I mean, he's aware of it. I mean, he doesn't know science, I don't think, being a lawyer, right? But Adam Rice is down there. And Adam Rice, along with Brian Schmidt and Saul Perlman, won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2011, I think, for the accelerating universe. And I called up Adam, or sent him an email and said, oh, by the way, bad news, the universe isn't accelerating, which he probably didn't like. I think he wrote back something or whatever, but I sent it, and so he did reach out to me, but like that one time. And I said, it's not, it's just expanding. And that's when I wrote the video, or made the video about the expanding, not accelerating universe. And basically, I can explain everything that they do without all the baggage of dark energy, dark matter. You know, it doesn't make any difference. Starting from a singularity, maybe, maybe not. I mean, so it explains everything that they do. It just doesn't have a lot of, like I said, a lot of baggage to it that they're not going to be able to demonstrate is true. So I don't think they're going to really find much with dark energy about it. So, I mean, you can go look at it. It's the expanding, not accelerating universe. And it's pretty simple. Again, it's another conceptual piece. I found, if you read their papers, you know, Saul's paper and Adam's paper, I think what I've noticed in physics and the related sciences, astronomy and astrophysics and cosmology, is that people tend to take a simple concept and just cover it in an amount of, you know, bulldog. I mean, just a lot of extraneous garbage that they put in there that doesn't help the situation at all. I mean, the papers that they put together, when hard sciences use statistics as a way to demonstrate the truth, I get very concerned about